Welcome back, Dynasty Lovers, to another episode of the Dynasty Interview Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Adrian, with my co-host,
Scott Martin.
Well, Scotty, we got some landing spots. And
Yes.
when we got landing spots, we do mock drafts.
Oh, yeah. Gosh. I think we have to stop watching the draft at your house because the first day of the draft is like punishment. It's supposed to be fun, but it's just demoralizing. It's like 3 years in a row. Thank God day 2 saved the draft.
Definitely saved it.
And day 3 was pretty solid too. So, but man, oh man, I can't wait to get your thoughts on this mock draft because, man, oh man, looking at my board, like everything is super, super tight, and I really don't know who I'm going to pick. Like it's going to be team specific for sure for me. So, gosh, I'm anxious to see what you got to say.
Yeah, well, getting back to the draft, each year, these past 2 years, we had to sacrifice a wide receiver to Lamar Jackson.
And we sacrificed a good one. Great.
Yeah, one of the higher ranked ones in our film scores. But then doing the mock drafts and preparing for this, it was tough. I spent a long time just staring at the papers, staring at the landing spots, trying to decide where I wanted to go. And we'll delve into it pretty good here with this draft here, but it's not set in stone, and it's. I think I've come down to you have 3 options in this draft. So one is you trade up, try to get these top tier guys.
Mm-hmm.
And by top tier, I'm to me there's 4 players. So the top 4 picks. The other option is just trading out of it, just getting out of this draft, then picking up veterans, picking up future picks in 2024 and 2025. And the third option, which is most fun in draft time, is the shotgun approach here. So you probably want more of a bird shot then. So you have like 100 pellets and you just shoot at the draft board. And
hope you hit something you like and that it sticks.
Yeah, there is a lot of guys that could do something, have a possibility to do something,
mm-hmm.
but the reliability and the hit rate, I think, is going to be significantly lower than at least the past 2 drafts then. I know we've been covering in the drafts here for the last 4 years
mm-hmm.
then. And I feel the least confident as far as guys. And usually you start seeing this, I think 2 years ago, you felt comfortable even into the middle of the second round, which is really good. Last year, it was sort of towards the early second round that you start seeing that fall off then. And this year, you feel uncomfortable. I think even after the first 4 picks, definitely not after the first 6 picks.
The problem is, looking at my board from pick 6 to, early second round, all these guys are pretty much the same value in my eyes. So you got to love somebody, and then after that, it's just, Yeah,
and I think we did an elite scouting this year. Our film study
mm-hmm.
almost lined up perfectly with the NFL draft as far as where they were picked, what the value is seen. I think we have a few guys like Tyler Scott maybe went a little bit later than we thought he would.
Mm-hmm.
Sean Tucker was undrafted, but apparently has a heart condition then that we did not know about then.
Yep.
And I think on my wide receiver board, Xavier Hutchinson maybe was drafted farther down than I thought he was, but he was still drafted. And then landing spots, the other thing you have to consider here. So one guy took a huge hit. I was picturing him maybe in that top number 4 pick then, maybe 4 to 6 range then. Now I have him into the second round just because.
Yeah, well, let's be honest. There's one team that screwed us all, other than the Ravens, and it was the daggone Sea Chickens.
Yeah, Pete Carroll. He
hates fantasy football.
He hates fantasy football, and I hate Pete Carroll. Ever since they did an onside kick against my Bills, when they were up by 21 points. I've hated that man. So and he keeps on kicking me low. He goes for the low blows and by getting me in fantasy now. So It's so I think the best thing we do is just get started on
Yep,
this draft
let's
here.
do it.
So, without further ado, we begin the 2023. So we're doing a 1 QB league, 12-team, half-point PPR mock draft then. So I think that the order we always go into is Scotty gets the first pick, I'll get the second pick, and we'll switch off here, and then go down the board and talk about these players and talk about landing spots, talk about what we see going forward then, and why we draft him at this position then. So, Scotty, you have the easy one.
Yep. So I'm glad that you gave me the honors because I'm, ecstatic to be able to take Bijan here. He's top tier of the class. He honestly, the way that the veteran running back is sort of fallen off in the NFL, and then the level of young guys that just have underperformed or not performed, Bijan could be a top 5 running back next year. That's crazy to think, but I think in like startup drafts, he's going to be a first round pick as well, which is just insane. So at 1-1, Bijan is a slam dunk. Atlanta's going to be a good spot. I know you got a little bit of competition there, but I think he's going to be at the 3-down back. He's going to get spelled some, especially on early downs, but he's going to thrive in just every role and just be an elite fantasy option for the next 5 years or so or longer. So he's the easy pick. He's the number 1 pick in every league. I don't care if it's Superflex. I don't care what it is. He's the guy.
Yeah, he's across the board. Any league, Superflex,
yep.
single QB, tight end Superflex, all of them then. And like I said, the landing spot I thought was pretty good. Arthur Smith loves to run the ball then.
Yep.
They have a pretty good offensive line. They have a good tight end. They have a good wide receiver. Take some pressure off of Bijan, so they can't necessarily stack the boxes, but they're probably going to stack the boxes because I think their biggest weakness on offense is obviously the quarterback, and I think they ultimately are going to have a high draft pick next year, and they're going to upgrade that quarterback in 2024 then. So, but Bijan, it's an easy pick here. I like that.
Barring injury, I'd bet he finishes as a RB1 this year.
Yeah, and I think he's definitely going to get spelled at times then, but he should have a 70% workload in the offense then.
Yep.
I'm not worried about that at all. But Bijan, easy pick here. Number 2 is where the fun starts, where the question marks start then. So I'm actually keeping my pre-draft 102 the same as the post-draft, but I was not happy with the landing spot then. So I'm going with Jahmyr Gibbs, got drafted by the Detroit Lions then at pick 112 then. So I was shocked by this pick. I looked at you afterwards,
yep,
and just said, why?
Yep.
Every minute I just kept going, why?
Yep.
What's the point of this? Why?
I can't understand why would you spend such a high pick on a running back that you don't need, and you have so many holes that you need, more than running back. I love Gibbs, but that draft value is insane.
Yeah, and I could have seen it if maybe they didn't sign David Montgomery to this 3-year contract for decent money for a running back, because it's obvious they don't like Swift at all. Then they traded him to the Eagles, so win for the Eagles there.
Yep.
And we thought that Swift was ultimately going to get traded then, so it wasn't terrible in the end then. But it didn't make sense then. And I would rather have Gibbs going somewhere else. Ideally, in my mind, it would have been great to see him go to, say, the Broncos and being working in with Williams then. And Sean Payton and using like that Kamara back and Mark Ingram type role. That was like my ideal landing spot in my head then. But Jahmyr Gibbs going there. Like I said, I'm still having him here because I believe in the talent. I think he's a special player. He's one of the elite guys in this draft class then. He is going to be a monster in the passing game. But the thing is, David Montgomery's not bad in the passing game either. So that's another reason why I'm like, why? Like, why? It's not like it's a weakness. I think what you're going to
see is Montgomery is going to be the early down back. He's going to get most of the goal line carries. And Jahmyr Gibbs is literally going to play the Swift role. And they don't like these type of running backs, which is extremely weird why they went and drafted basically a DeAndre Swift type guy. Maybe he's a little more explosive, maybe, but that's basically what you're getting. And somebody who's maybe a little less physical and is probably going to get banged up more than Swift did. So
Yeah,
it's
I
just
don't know.
weird. Just weird.
Swift durability was I think one of the major issues then.
Well, Swift is now a top 7, top 8 running back. I mean, unless he gets sniped by all these Hurts touchdowns, he's an RB1 again. It's insane that you gave him up. That just, it makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah,
but
like I said,
Detroit, they're a lost cause.
Yeah, but like I said, I still believe in the talent, and especially in this draft class, it wasn't going to kill Jahmyr Gibbs. So I feel comfortable taking him at the 102, and I'll just sort of roll with it then, because
it makes you more comfortable now that some of that competition's gone. Now that Swift is gone, because you expected Gibbs to get the carries over him, but you just didn't want to have to deal with a 3-headed, running back. So
yeah. And the hope is maybe they can get Gibbs in the slot and run Montgomery and him at the same time then too. And with Dan Campbell, he was in New Orleans then when they had Kamara and Sean Payton then. So hopefully he has ideas or things planned for Gibbs.
You take a running back
type role.
You take a running back.
That's the other thing I thought about as far as going forward with Gibbs then. So I think they have a plan for him, and I'm hopeful for that. So I'm very comfortable with him at the 102 here, especially in this draft class.
Yep, that's a solid pick. I think those two picks are really solid for me. I don't envision, in Superflex obviously things are different, but in half-point PPR leagues, that's my order. Pick 3 is where the fun starts, really, for me. The problem is you have guys who are good that got horrible landing spots. I'm so excited for this pick. And you got guys who are still good but not great, and they got better landing spots. So I'm taking Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think that Jackson Smith and Jigba is really going to still be able to get out there on the field. It might not be early on, it might be later in the year, and it might be next year. But his talent is elite, and he's going to be a just dynamite slot guy that's going to be able to pair with Metcalf really well. I think that the Seahawks probably aren't going to be that good, and they're probably going to be drafting a quarterback high in the next draft, and hopefully the team looks better, because I'm not a fan of Geno Smith. He's good. I mean, he's good enough for fantasy, but he's not somebody who's going to support 2 wide receivers, and definitely not 3 wide receivers. So that makes this pick really hard. But I'm sticking with my numbers. He's my top-rated wide receiver, and I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, and the other thing about Seattle is they love to run the ball too. So
yep.
What's the volume going to be?
Well, I can't wait to hear when you talk about that.
Well, that's my ultimate dropper.
Carry on.
But I agree with you. I think talent alone then, and he's head and shoulders above all the other wide receivers in this class then.
Yep.
And I had JSN at the 103 as well then too. I am hesitant about what the production is going to be this year.
Yep.
But I think probably Lockett's gone in 2024 then.
Yeah.
It's a preemptive move here. They're getting the best receiver in the class then. And he's a different player than DK Metcalf too. DK Metcalf is going to stretch the field then, be that more power physical kind of guy then. And Jackson Smith's going to be in the slot and working the underneath routes then, and being a sort of PPR type monster then. So I'm very comfortable with him here, especially in this class. Like I said, I didn't like the landing spot. I didn't like the initial reaction, but I came to, and I think we ultimately see in the same realm of things here at the 103 then. So
yeah,
Jackson Smith.
And I've heard multiple outlets saying Lockett is on cut watch, which to me just sounds absurd. But I hope they don't cut him. I mean, he's still an excellent player. But that would definitely help, Jackson Smith and Jigba's value. But I'm hoping they keep Lockett for at least another year.
I'm not sure what the cap situation is for the Seahawks then. I don't think they're too terrible. They're not paying a ton to Geno Smith then, but I think they should roll with all three of them this year if you're a Seahawks fan. But
Yep.
I'm not the GM there. I didn't make those crazy picks that they made. So moving on to the 104.
I can't wait to hear this one.
So the way I've done this. I said there's 4 elite players in this draft class then, and I'm sticking to that then. So this is a very unorthodox move for me.
I know where you're going.
I don't like drafting these guys in the first round. There's only one other time I've given a tight end necessarily a first round grade in your rookie drafts then, and that was Kyle Pitts. And the closest guy in all the years we've been scouting then, the closest guy or the guy that's even anywhere near Kyle Pitts as far as his film score is Dalton Kincaid then. And I absolutely loved him. I threw up the where is it at here? I threw up the hearts, I believe, when we were talking about him then. He is one of the 4 elite guys in this draft then. And he went to the Bills. He was picked in the first round. Was it pick the 25th pick in the first round? They traded up for him then. They have a very good tight end already then. So a tight end 1 in your fantasy drafts then, or fantasy leagues then. But I think Dalton Kincaid offers something else in addition to what Knox already presents to your team then.
Yeah, and I think the early reports, in the post-draft press conferences, you got to love what you're hearing if you're in on Kincaid, because they're talking about using him strictly as a receiving option, and really letting Knox be more of that blocking tight end. So that stinks for all the Knox owners, but Kincaid, I think, essentially is serving as their wide receiver too.
Yeah, so apparently the word on the street, or the rumors were, they were eyeing Addison as their top pick at wide receiver then. And then once he went off the board then they started talking about trading up for Kincaid then. And they jumped Dallas. There's talk that Dallas wasn't really going for tight end, but the look on their faces after that pick.
Man, they were absolutely drafting Kincaid. 100%.
Yeah. And but Kincaid, they talk about using him in the slot then. They're talking about actually using a 12 personnel, so 2 tight ends on the field a lot of the times then, just to sort of keep the defense in their unbalanced sets then. And he's going to be more of the receiving option then. So Dawson Knox is a very good blocker, so he's going to get more of the blocking duties, and then Kincaid's going to be that mismatch then. And Josh Allen is apparently very stoked and thrilled to get Kincaid then. He was blowing up Brandon Beane's phone then too, so the GM then. So I think this is a very good pick then, and he's a guy that has the possibility to take that tight end position on your team to the next level. And especially in this draft class, I'm all for it at the 4th pick then. It's definitely a little high for a tight end then, but this is not your typical tight end then. He's more that move tight end then. That's going to put up those fantasy points that we like. And like I said, he's one of those 4 elite talents that I have for this draft class then. So Dalton Kincaid at 104.
So at the 4th pick, I would have taken Dalton Kincaid.
Oh, you would have too?
Yep, I would have taken him. And the reason is,
so
in a league where you have basically one tight end that's putting up production, you got a few that have some upside that you feel good about but not great about. And I'm going to make a prediction. I think Dalton Kincaid is a top half tight end 1 next year. I think he's going to get a lot of playing time. I think he's their second best receiving option.
And a Dalton Kincaid owner in the future. I hope so too.
Yep. So
who do you got at 105?
Jordan Addison. Easy. Best landing spot among the wide receivers, in my opinion. He is going to immediately get production in Minnesota. And I really think he's going to benefit, from Justin Jefferson sort of being the focal point of that offense, and he's just going to absorb a lot of targets in the slot. I mean, there were a lot of games where the wide receiver 2 for Minnesota was super productive last year, and he is he had special talent just on with my film score, but when you mix that with just a beautiful landing spot, I love him here at pick 5. I feel very solid with the top 5 that we've said. And I know Kirk Cousins, I don't know how many years he's got left, but man, he's full steam ahead with Kirk Cousins this year and for the next couple years. He's got so many weapons around him. He's just going to, he's a top 6 QB no matter what. So definitely love Jordan Addison.
Yeah, I don't know if Kirk Cousins is a top 6. He doesn't have that running things to fall back on.
It doesn't matter. He's a locked in easy QB1, and with all these weapons,
well, he's a back end QB1.
I think he's got top 6 potential this year.
Well, we'll see how Addison translates to the NFL then. His size is the main issue then. I'm definitely going pick for pick with you here then. I agree with Jordan Addison at 105 then. I think the Vikings, you never want a wide receiver at this high in the draft. That's not going to be necessarily the number one option on their team then. But the Vikings have shown year in and year out then that they can support 2 wide receivers. So they did Diggs and Thielen in the past then. They've done Thielen and Justin Jefferson. And now they're probably going to do Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison then. But you worry about the size. He's not the ideal necessarily prospect physically then, but he's going to be working the slide. He's going to be protected that way. And Kirk Cousins is a very accurate quarterback then. Help things out, and Jordan Addison is a very good route runner then too. So he's probably the guy that's gonna have the earliest and best production. I don't know if he has the highest ceiling then, but definitely a good pick here at 105 then. So cannot argue with that then. And the Vikings, their defense, I didn't see that they didn't really do much on their defense that I was at least in the early rounds that I saw.
Yeah.
But they're gonna be throwing the ball a lot then. And they threw at a very high rate last year. And if they get rid of Dalvin Cook, they're going to be throwing even more then. So
yeah, I think if Cook was going to be gone, he would have already been gone. I think he's probably going to stay, but I don't think that really matters for Addison. I really think that you mentioned the early production. It's Bijan and Addison. Like those are the only 2 that I feel confident about early production.
Well, you said Dalton Kincaid.
And Kincaid.
It's
tight end position.
Top 6.
But other than that, like I don't feel good about anybody else with early production.
Yep. So pick 106 then.
Yep.
I think I have all the difficult ones.
I guarantee you that I don't think there's any way you have who I have at 6.
Yeah. So at 6, I am going with a guy that actually got a pretty good score on my film score, and he actually had question marks as far as his hands then, and you don't necessarily want that in a wide receiver then, but he got first round draft capital. He's paired up with a very excellent quarterback then, and he's in a wide receiving core where there's already 2 pretty good options then, but they talked about moving on from one of them earlier this year. I think they're going to keep him this year, but likely going to be moving on from this guy later on. But I'm going with Quentin Johnston with the Chargers then. So you got Justin Herbert. Yep, I'm going Quentin Johnston. Like I said, the first round draft capital sort of.
This is a definite debate here. So where do you see him fitting in his offense?
Go
ahead.
My views here first. So like I said, you have Justin Herbert. You can't argue with that. I always look for these early guys to make sure they have a very good quarterback, and it's going to give them the ball easily then. And like I said, you have Mike Williams and you have Keenan Allen, but there's been talk about moving on to Keenan Allen for the past year plus now, and I think ultimately he's going to assume that number 1 or 2 role. And Quentin Johnston probably has the highest ceiling then of all these wide receivers in this class. Then he's that guy that can actually be a true number 1 then, and he's very good after the catch. Then he has very good speed, very good power after the catch. Then, and I think if he can sort of refine his contested catches and eliminate some of those higher drop rates, then I think he has the world's of potential. Then, so I'm going here. And I'm more comfortable taking him at 106 here than up in the high end of the first round because I'm more less risk averse early in the first round. I'm usually less risk averse at the 106, but in this class, I'm willing to take that risk. And like I said, I like the landing spot overall. I didn't like it when I first heard it, but I talked myself into it, sort of like a lot of these other guys then too. So that's my reasoning for Quentin Johnston here at the 106.
Johnston's way down my board, like at the end of the first round. And see, what I don't understand is Quentin Johnston is not Keenan Allen. He's not that type of receiver. Mm-mm. He's Mike Williams. He's a Mike Williams type of receiver, but just not as athletic. He's better after the catch, but I mean, I don't see him being a perfect fit in this offense. Not with Mike Williams there, and then they just pay him like they just extended him like last year. So I don't see the fit.
I think he's better. He's not. No one's as good. No one. Mike Williams and definitely not Quentin Johnston are great route runners as Keenan Allen. But I think Quentin Johnston is better, sort of across the middle than Mike Williams, and I think that's somewhere he can excel at. Then I liked his sort of crossing routes when I saw him on film. Then, so I think his routes aren't that bad. But like I said, it's not Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen's one of the best route runners in the NFL.
Yeah, I understand the draft capital. I understand that if you're looking at it without looking at the film, then how he'd be an easy pick here. But when you watch the film, I just don't see it translating and fitting with what they have because they're not getting rid of Mike Williams. And Keenan Allen is the guy who can, get loose underneath. And you got, Palmer there that's kind of that guy too. I don't see early production.
Just a guy.
I agree, but Quentin Johnston's not the guy that's going to be able to get loose underneath, and he's not a great route runner. So I don't see it. I'm out on Johnston. He's way down
going
my
up
board.
With the, like I said, I've liked the potential, and I think he has the highest ceiling. So I'm going more ceiling here versus he definitely has a high risk and lower floor.
Yep.
But that's where I'm going at this pick then.
Well, I tell you where.
So I said it's not an easy pick. So no. I mean, what do you have at 107 then?
Well, I tell you who I would have took at 6, Kendre Miller.
Obviously that's gonna be the 107 then.
Yeah, I'm taking Kendre Miller. You got a guy who's at least probably for the first half of the year is probably going to get a good bulk of carries. I think he can beat Jamal Williams out. I could see him being the lead back for the first 6 weeks. And if that's, assuming Kamara gets suspended for 6 weeks, and regardless, even if Kamara's there, I think that there's a chance where it's almost a split backfield. And I loved Kendre Miller's film. He's easily the third best back in this class, especially now after the landing spots. It would have been definitely debatable before, but man, with really needing running backs in this league, and the way that things have sort of shook out with all the veterans becoming sort of towards the end of their careers and just not a lot of good young guys, Kendre Miller has an opportunity to be a really solid running back, and for me, I would have taken him over Johnston, no problem. I don't know if other people have Kendre Miller this high, but that's where I got him.
So that was definitely one of my great debates then. I was thinking about him as high as 105.
Yeah.
I thought about him 106. I ultimately have him at Kendre Miller at 109 then.
Okay.
Because I think he also has a higher risk as well then too. And he doesn't have the same draft capital as Quentin Johnston. So he's a 8th pick in the 3rd round then, while Quentin Johnston is the end of the 1st then. So that was the ultimately I think they have to work him in then.
Yeah, I have 4 wide receivers above Johnston.
Well, yeah, it's like that tier. After,
they're all in the same tier.
Yeah, and it's all personal preference then. It's all personal preference and how you want to go with it. There's a lot safer guys there, but there's lower ceilings then. And I chose ceiling with Quentin Johnston then. But I agree, Kendre Miller, I love him. He's my 3rd back on the list here then. He is another guy that I want to get at least a few shares of because I love his talent. I love his ceiling then. I think he's can be a complete back in this league then. But I wish if he was 2nd round, I probably would have taken him at 106 then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
the thing is, like,
early 3rd round, which is pretty good. But
yeah, but
Kamara. That's what was my deciding point then. with the Quentin Johnson versus Kendra Miller then. But I really like Kendra Miller, and I'm not going to argue with your pick here. Like,
Yeah, Kamara is probably going to get suspended, and even if he doesn't, I still think it's definitely high enough that they really value Miller, and I feel pretty good about it.
but like I said, I like Kendra Miller, but this draft is very risky.
Yep.
So
all these next few picks are risky.
Trade
that's
up,
why taking
trade
the running
out,
back
or shotgun it.
Yep.
So moving on to pick 108 then. So this is a guy I surprised me and I liked a lot in the film study. I knew nothing about him, and he was going you do like pre-draft mock drafts in Sleeper, and you could get him in the 5th round easy. But now he's going in the 1st, and I'm picking Jonathan Mingo.
I knew you were going there.
108. So Jonathan Mingo, I was hoping he would slide down the boards a little bit, but he got picked. He was actually the 5th receiver off the board, the 8th pick in the 2nd round by the Panthers. And he's one of these bigger guys. He has that chance to be a true number 1 wide receiver then. I thought he was a decent route runner. I thought he had good hands. I thought he had a good after the catch. He played inside, played outside then. And I think he's just underutilized at Ole Miss then. And he has to deal with Old Man Thielen, and he's got DJ Shark as his competition then. So there's a path that he could slide into that number 1 role with the Panthers, especially with this higher draft capital in 2024 then. And like I said, I see the path here. I feel like a broken record. Risk versus reward here. So the risk is high, the reward is high then too. And like I said, I like the film study. I like the player. I like the measurables. I'm going with Jonathan Mingo here at 108 then.
Now, I liked Mingo on our film score, and I was just within a point or two of you. But in my opinion, I don't think he is a superstar. And when you're taking him here, you're taking him over guys with a lot of talent. I really do not have Mingo up this high. I know you love Mingo, but
I'm a Mingo fan.
I don't have Mingo up here. I think that that's the biggest reach.
Yeah, I had him at 107 on my board.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take the guy on arguably the best offense in football and got pretty solid 2nd round draft capital, and they don't have this kind of receiver. Mahomes has never had this receiver. I'm taking Rashee Rice. He is the guy with the biggest ceiling in this class at the wide receiver position. It's not a great floor. I mean, the floor is low, but Mahomes does not have this type of guy. And he could literally be their wide receiver 1 option. I mean, I know you're losing a lot of targets to Kelsey, but this guy has the opportunity to be something that they have never had. I don't know why Rashee Rice is not getting super big hype right now. I'm pumped if I'm getting him at pick 9. Why are you laughing?
Because this draft class is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So Rashee Rice then had 1 year of production at SMU. And I was reading like some scouts were like, yeah, I like him, but he's not as good as Gray last year. And he gets drafted higher than Gray. So he was the 24th pick in the 2nd round to the Chiefs then. And we liked what we saw in the film here. I had Mingo had a better score than him, but he was close. He was actually that 3rd, 4th tier. I had Mingo a tier above, but he was very close then. And I like Rashee Rice, and I was debating whether to put him higher up like this or not. Then I ultimately had him down in the early 2nd then. But I see what you see, and we saw this last year with Sky Moore. So the chance to team up with Patrick Mahomes then, you have an elite quarterback, you have the best offense in the league. Then you have openings on the outside. Then like who's their outside guys? MVS.
Yeah, he's their guy, and that's what
Maybe
I'm saying.
Tony goes out there maybe once in a while. Then
We
I'm
thought.
not sure they plan for Sky Moore out there.
Well, we thought
But
Sky Moore was going to be able to absorb a lot of like underneath targets and be an option sort of instead of Kelsey, but I mean that didn't really happen, and they don't got this kind of guy that can sort of somewhat stretch the field and play outside, and
so it's another risky pick.
Yep.
But
I mean, there's a couple wide receivers.
I'm not going to fault you for it.
Yeah.
I thought about it. I thought about putting him up higher. I'm not going to put him at the 109 here, but you do you. You do you.
I have four guys that I had way higher valued than Rashee Rice. But landing spot is a very humbling thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the way it was with Quentin Johnston. So you got Justin Herbert, and this guy you got Patrick Mahomes. Then, so it's very very similar in that regard. Then, but I get where you're going at. So I just I went with the guy with higher draft capital. But this isn't. It's not the wrong pick here, but it's a pick.
My plan is not to pick out of the top 5. All the other picks are traded.
Yeah, this is why it took me so long to do this mock draft, because it was very difficult then. Moving on, next pick, 110. So this next guy is a guy I am not going to draft in my fantasy drafts. I've been burned too many times by this guy already then. Well, not this guy particularly, but the guy that throws to him. So the guy that throws to him is Lamar Jackson. So my pick here at 110, I actually had him at 108 on my board then, is Zay Flowers. So he was the third receiver off the board, first round draft capital in the 22nd pick then. He offers a different value than the guys they already have on the team. So Odell Beckham's an outside guy then. They have Rashad Bateman. He's an outside, play inside then too. But Zay Flowers is going to be that slot receiver then. But the number one option in this offense is still going to be Mark Andrews then.
Yep.
So the landing spot is probably one of the lowest ones I gave as far as these top end wide receivers then. I don't like the quarterback. They're going to be a run first offense as well then too. The one saving grace is they had got a new offensive coordinator, so they don't have Greg Roman anymore. I'm not sure what the new guy's ultimate plan is going to be then, but there could be some less running and maybe more passing. So that's why there's some hope here.
Well, the problem is he's still going to be the second best wide receiver on the team. Bateman is phenomenal, and there's just not enough targets to go around.
And Antonio Brown may be there too.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Antonio Brown dressed up as a Raven. I don't know if he's just high on something again or what is he doing then, but who knows. But if Antonio Brown's there, that's when I don't want to see any development. There's not going to be any development for Zay Flowers. It's going to be just a nightmare for Harbaugh and the team then. But
yep.
Yeah, so Zay Flowers, that's who I have at 110 there. I'm not confident with it. But draft capital, and I like the player a lot. Then he was, I think he was my second highest film score for the wide receivers. So it's a very good player then, and he offers some of the higher potential in this class then. But landing spot killed him. I didn't like it at all.
Loved Rashad Bateman. Loved him. He was one of my top wide receivers, and I took him over some really, really talented guys.
I had number 2 in the class after Chase.
I got burnt. And I know that Zay Flowers is the same sort of situation in this class. He's top tier level talent. But just it's going to be really hard. If Lamar wasn't 100% already signed to this big deal and it was still up in the air, I would have felt a little more easy about Flowers. He would have been a little higher up the board. But now that Lamar's locked in, I mean,
it's 4 to 5 years of Lamar.
Just stinks, man. And I would love to still take Flowers because of the talent, but I'm not going to spend this pick on him. I would trade it. 100% I'd trade it.
Yeah, I'd try to trade him. Yep. Like I said, I'm not going to, even if he's on my board, I have that pick, I can't trade it, I'm probably just going to pivot to someone else.
Yep.
I'm not doing that Lamar dance again. Then with all,
nope.
I think I had one Bateman share, but like I said, we watched that draft. We just both went,
Yep.
And it turned out to be true, and we didn't learn from that by not picking Bateman.
If
But
you
I'm learning from this time. I'm learning from
if
Bateman now, and I'm not picking Zay Flowers.
you know
But
if Baltimore had
the value's
listened,
there.
if Baltimore had listened and taken our Quentin Johnston sacrifice, and you put Zay Flowers with the Chargers, that's a perfect fit in my eyes.
Yeah, that would have been wonderful.
Like,
That would have been
man,
wonderful.
oh man, I'm probably picking him number 3 in this class.
Well, the
draft.
Chargers could have drafted Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers, Quentin Johnson was picked one pick before Zay
Yeah,
Flowers.
yeah,
so
yeah. I know.
We can't blame the foul. I mean the Ravens for that. We have to blame the Chargers for that.
Yep. Well, I have one guy. Here I'm going to take it. Pick 11. I have one guy ahead of Zay Flowers, and right now that offense is very, very crowded. But I'm taking Marvin Mims. Loved what I saw in film. Super underrated, and I think that especially if Judy is gone, that Mims can really be the focal point of that offense, and I really really like him. So even if Judy's there, I still think there's a path towards production. It's not going to be early production, but he's going to be a solid. He's going to be a solid wide receiver at the NFL level, and I like the safety that he brings. I think his ceiling is high enough, but his floor is also high. So give me Marvin Mims.
So I don't have Marvin Mims in my first 2 rounds.
How in the world is that possible?
I hate the landing spot.
How? Okay, what's there?
You have Cortland Sutton.
Yeah,
you have
very
Jerry
old
Jeudy,
Cortland Sutton.
who's balled out. You have Tim Patrick, who's coming back from injury. I'm not necessarily worried by Tim Patrick then. You have a good running game. You have a new head coach that's going to be maybe more balanced on offense. Not going to be one of passing. He was running the ball a lot then, with the New Orleans Saints and Sean Payton then. So I don't love this. And I liked Marvin Mims, but I didn't love Marvin Mims from his film study. I think you liked him better than I did overall. So
let me back up on you.
I won't be averse to him having the back end of the first. I mean the back end of the second then, but higher than that, it's I'm a little hesitant on that then.
So where's the running game at in Denver? Because Javonte Williams is probably not ready to go to start the year. He didn't just tear his ACL. He had other structural damage. So I don't know that he's going to bounce back and be the same guy right off the bat.
Oh, yeah, exactly the same guy right back. They signed P. Ryan, I believe.
Is Samar J. P. Ryan make an established running game? No. So you have Russell Wilson and a big investment in him. You're going to throw the ball. You've got Jerry Jeudy, and I think that he's obviously the number one guy there. But are you scared of Tim Patrick? Are you scared of Cortland Sutton? They're both shells of themselves.
I thought Cortland Sutton's a better wide receiver than Mims. Then
give me Mims, man.
Yeah. And Jerry Jeudy,
if I can get Mims in the second round, I want to throw a party.
Jerry Jeudy's superior to Mims in every way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you're also going to have to pay Jerry Jeudy a whole lot of money, and he's been injured how many times?
And there were all these rumors about them looking to trade somebody, but then Sean Payton comes out like, we're not trading any of our wide receivers, and they recently extended Cortland Sutton. That was before Sean Payton, I believe, but like I said, but I didn't like the landing spot there. And I believe in New Orleans, they never supported more than one wide receiver in their offense.
Well, they never had one.
That was with Drew Brees.
Never had one.
Yeah, they did.
I mean,
they had Marcus Colston for the longest time. Then they had.
You're digging
Brandon
way
Cooks
back.
For
How many
time
years?
Then they had Michael Thomas be the number one wide receiver on the team and in the league. Then, so yeah, they definitely supported guys. But like I said, I don't see a clear path for Marvin Mims. Maybe in 2024, 2025 then. But like I said, I see more in that second round or early third round type pick then. But yeah.
Well, he won't get out of the early.
There's a lot of variability here.
He's not getting out of the early second. I can guarantee that. I'll take him every time.
You're going to be getting them. Other people are going to be getting them if they're drafting that high for me then. But yeah, I don't see that from Marvin Mims. But it's like I said, it's Baskin Robbins. So it's what flavor you like here.
Yep.
And but Marvin Mims is not my flavor then. I'm more of I'm more of a, let's see, at pick 112. So I'm more of a running back flavor at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy I'm drafting here is, they got a big bump based on landing spot. Not a huge, not a bigger bump than most of the running backs then. And a guy I like then, he actually bumped up a tier with this landing spot then. And that's Devon A-Chain then. Went to the Dolphins. So he was actually pick in the third round, pick 21 to the Dolphins then. My comps for him were, I had two comps for him. So I had Naeem Hines, and ironically, my other comp for him was Raheem Mostert. And he went to the perfect situation. So two situations would have been the 49ers, but you're buried on the depth chart, or the Dolphins then. And I think he can take over that spot pretty easily from Mostert then. Both Mostert and I think Jeff Wilson are there now. Both are long in the tooth then. This guy has elite speed then. I think he ran the fastest 40 at the combine then for the running backs. He can run inside the tackles. He's not going to be a bruiser at his size. So that's the biggest thing. The thing that I had him downgraded the most was just his size then. I think he came in at 188 then, so definitely smaller than I like, but that's where Mostert is. And if Mostert can run this offense and be productive in this offense, I think A-Chain can do that as well then too. He's not going to be an every down back then. You're going to have splitting time with these other guys then. But I think he can be very productive in this offense then, and you're covering down the field with Waddle and Tyreek Hill then, so you're not going to face these stack boxes. So I really like A-Chain here. So I think he's going to be that fourth running back off the board, and some people are actually going to draft him ahead of Kendrick Miller then too. So Devon A-Chain, I think it's full steam ahead for him here. So definitely a big boost by his landing spot here with the Dolphins.
How many times have the Dolphins had a running back? And every time you think there's a clear path, every time you think everything's all set up to get a big-time role, they, feed four mouths. That's exactly what's going to happen. I love A-Chain, but I don't know how you could feel confident that he's their lead guy. I can see a path where that could happen, but that's just super risky. And I understand that the path is there, but Zach Charbonnet, that's who I'm taking at pick 2-1. I know he went to Seattle, but think about this. What if Kenneth Walker is the person who can't carry the load? And Zach Charbonnet's the lead guy. That guy was my number 3 running back, pre-draft.
He was my 104 pre-draft.
There's no way I'm letting Zach Charbonnet fall any farther. I feel bad that I bumped him down so far. So I'm taking Zach Charbonnet over, A-Chain, especially with where the wide receivers are on the board. I think this is a pretty easy pick. I'm not going to fault you for taking A-Chain. I probably would have taken him next, but I'm pretty pumped with Zach Charbonnet there, and it's just because it was their pre-draft, and everyone's banking on Kenneth Walker being the guy to get all the carries, but what if Zach Charbonnet's going to get the lion's share and he's going to take care of all the passing work? He's probably more valuable in this offense. So I'm going with Zach Charbonnet. I don't think he's going to fall this far in other drafts. I feel like people are going to be still higher on him.
So I dropped him 13 slots.
Man.
Pre and post draft. So I have him at 205 now.
Wow. There's not a scenario at all where he's there at 205.
Well, he's not going to be there. I think he's going to be drafted higher than that no matter what. Because he has the third best capital of all the draft picks then. So he was drafted in the second round, the only running back drafted in the second round at pick 21 then. The thing is, I agree with you. I think he's going to get more of that third down role because he showed more pass catching ability in college than Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker rarely caught anything in college then. He looked okay in the pros then, but I think they want to use him more in that third down role. And but then Pete Carroll comes out like, oh yeah, Zach Charbonnet, he'll get the third down role. And then we're also going to want Kenneth Walker to catch some passes then too. So Pete Carroll, you never know what the hell he's talking about.
I honestly have almost talked myself into putting him up at pick 7.
But my final point then is the Seahawks did something later on in the draft then. So where is that at here? So in the 7th round, pick 20, they drafted an even better pass-catching back. So they drafted Kenny McIntosh, and his specialty was pass-catching back. What the hell are they doing? Like
Kenny McIntosh ain't gonna. He's practice squad fodder.
No, he probably. I think he has special team ability then, so he can make the team with special teams.
Okay.
And are we looking at like a Travis Homer coming in on 3rd down, and you're gonna have these other 2 guys fighting it for 1st and 2nd down? Like, you can't trust Pete Carroll.
I know you
can't. Fool me once with Rashad Penny.
Can't.
Fool me once with Rashad Penny, then fool me twice with Kenny Walker. I ain't getting burned a 3rd time with Zach Charbonnet. I'm done with the Seahawks. Done with the Seahawks running.
If there was one running back that I would feel confident about not being the primary pass catching guy, not because he doesn't have the skills, just because I think there's just no way they're going to roster him to serve that role. I mean, not when you have Zach Charbonnet, he's an elite pass catching back.
Yeah, but you don't know with Pete Carroll.
I know you don't, but Kenny I understand why you're saying that, but I don't think that matters worth the hill of beans.
Yeah, Kenny McIntosh, his one saving grace was he's a very good pass catching. He's a very good route runner then, and it just and like we said before, they have 3 very good wide receivers now. Mm-hmm. Like, are they going to step up the passing game more? And you don't know week from week. They change it up no matter what. Pete Carroll's not here to play fantasy football.
Nope.
Pete Carroll is here to screw your fantasy football team and to try to win football games then. So I said I don't want to. It's like the Patriots in the sort of the teens in the 2000s. You didn't want to touch that backfield with a 10-foot pole because they did whatever they wanted week for week, and that's what the Seahawks are going to be. So I'm out. So I think I'm up to the 2nd pick in the 2nd round then. So. Oh man, I thought this guy had been gone by now. It's your boy, Jalen Hyatt.
Yep.
The Giants. So he went a little bit later than I was hoping for him. I thought he was going to be a late 2nd round pick, but he went sort of early 3rd then, pick 10 to the Giants then. But I'm happy to get him here at 302. I actually have him in my 111 slot then. And the good thing here is there's not an established wide receiver on this team, or like a top wide receiver. Mm-hmm. So he has a path to getting there. I think he's going to be a better wide receiver 2 on a team then.
Yep.
And I don't think he's ever going to be a wide receiver 1. But he has a path then, and he has a very good head coach who's a great offensive coordinator. Who's going to know how to use him correctly then too. And I think Danny Dimes is actually a very good deep ball passer, if I remember in the past then too. And I think he's probably going to fall into that Darius Slayton type role as far as that long pass, long ball kind of guy. But I don't know if Darius Slayton probably played more on the outside though. But so I think he's going to be hitting the slot early on then until he can show he can beat the jams on the outside then. But I'm happy to get Jalen Hyatt here. He's probably one of the most explosive wide receivers and the big play threats then. He's going to be a boom and bust week in, week out kind of guy then. But I'm very happy here getting him at 302 in this draft class then.
Yeah, so obviously I love Jalen Hyatt. And the running back position I think is so valuable that I feel like I have to have Charbonnet there. Because that's when the huge tier break is at the running back position. I can't fault you if you take Hyatt at pick 6. Like, 6 to whatever we're at here, 3-3 or 2-3. So like all these guys are like literally like the same tier. I mean, after this pick though, you got a lot of figuring out to do. So
there's figuring out to do in every pick after the 6th.
This one I think is pretty straightforward. Josh Downs.
203 then?
Yeah, 203. I'm taking Josh Downs. I'm not enamored by the offense that's going to be ran there with Richardson. I think it's going to be very run heavy. I think this hurts everyone except Anthony Richardson. Taylor's going to take a huge hit in value, and Pittman's going to take a hit in value. So, because I just don't trust that Richardson can throw the ball accurately. If anything, Pittman probably is the one of the receiving core that has the best chance of maintaining most of his value. He's still going to take a little bit of a hit because they're going to be more run-oriented. But Josh Downs operates really, really well underneath and as sort of that dynamic slot guy. And Richardson can't hit the side of the barn. So there's just
You're not selling me on this pick.
Well, that's because, I'd love to know who you got next because Josh Downs is an elite talent guy, and I can't pass on him, especially with what else is left here. I mean, you're getting to the point where you got to think quarterback soon. So I'm taking Josh Downs. He's the next best wide receiver on the board. Give me Josh Downs.
You didn't tell me anything good.
I got nothing good to say.
Okay.
The player's awesome, but the landing spot is trash. Trash.
So Josh Downs I actually have at 206 on my board then, but I really like Josh Downs. His film score was great. It was one of the tops in this class for the wide receiver then. His draft capital is not necessarily the best, but it's still third round, so he's picked 16. I think the Colts are in need of a slot receiver. They lost Paris Campbell then. And the thing that hurts him the most is, like I said, he has Lamar Jackson 2.0, but actually I said Cam Newton 2.0. So he has this big, strong wide receiver that's going to be running the ball. They're going to be running the ball with Taylor, and he can't hit. His accuracy is the main issue. Then
I just hope that the Colts saw something in his mechanics and saw some development in these private workouts and stuff that showed that he can throw an accurate ball.
Overall.
Because if they're watching the same film that we all watched last year, this dude could throw 10 yards over people's heads. He can also throw dimes, and he's got a cannon. But
very erratic.
But just he's like Chapman for the that used to play for the Yankees, just coming in and just be hitting people in the head. He's like, yeah, you can throw 103, but man, oh man, it's like you don't know where it's gonna go.
Yeah, the chances are he's gonna get the GM and the head coach fired, but
yep.
But he could also be the most dynamic quarterback ever to play in the NFL too. But that's where they're going. They're going strictly on potential for him. But yeah, Josh Downs, I love the talent. I love the player. I love the need for the team then. But like I said, the quarterback is what hurts you here, and then the draft capital is not the greatest. But like I said, Josh Downs at 203 is not a bad pick then. So
who would you have taken? Who's next on your board?
So next on my board, I actually have is I'm going tight end again.
Yep.
So Michael Mayer with the Raiders then. So you have a need there. So who they have? O.J. Howard and Austin Hooper then. So he's going to be the tight end one there. He's going to be on the field from play in and play out, day one. He's an excellent blocker. He's an excellent tight end, excellent route runner, excellent hands then. Number 2 tight end on my board then. And this is an offense that made Gronkowski the man he is then. So what's not to love there? Michael Mayer with the Raiders is match made in heaven then. So I actually have him on my board at 112 then. So he's a first round pick on my board then. And Michael Mayer, it's a very good tight end group here this year then. And Michael Mayer is the second best tight end, and I love the landing spot going forward. So easy pick here at 204. Full steam ahead for the Golden Domer.
Yeah, we've been in love with Mayer for forever now, and you just broke your rule twice, taking 2 tight ends.
I know it's a good class,
but it's a
good tight end class, but bad everything else.
Yep. So
it's
I can't sneaking up. Yeah, I can't fault you on Mayer there. This pick is the tough spot because it's what do you do? So I don't like what I'm looking at running back. I don't like what I'm looking at tight end. And I don't ever think that Bryce Young is going to be a top-tier QB1. I think he's going to be a solid early QB2. So I'm taking Cedric Tillman. It's Tillman time. I think he has a The Browns are going to be a lot more pass happy. They've made a huge investment in Deshaun Watson, and I think they're going to run a lot more 3 wide receiver sets, and maybe some 4 wide receiver sets. And I think Tillman is the perfect complement to what they have, because after Amari Cooper, who also can't really stay on the field at times and is just very inconsistent, Tillman is a very consistent underneath receiver and bully route runner, and I think he's going to be the quarterback's best friend. I think his upside is super high, and I think he's a really, really solid, safe pick here.
Yeah, so I think I agree with this pick. I actually had Cedric Tillman at 202 on my board then, and I think they weren't satisfied with what they got in last year's third-round pick in David Bell then.
Yep.
And I think they're trying to replace him with Cedric Tillman and they also drafted him in the third round here, pick 11 then. So decent draft capital. Liked what I saw in the film. He was in that big clump of second-tier guys then. And I'm worried about how he's going to be utilized in the Browns offense then, and how if Deshaun Watson's going to have improvement over last year where he looked terrible. Like I said, I like the talent, and it's a decent landing spot. He should get some early playing time. And I see him, I think he's a better overall player than Peoples-Jones then. And Peoples-Jones is probably going to be moving on. I think he's probably in his last year of his deal here. I see a good path for Tillman, and I agree with this pick then. Good pick, good value here at 305 then, or 205 then, sorry.
Yep.
So 206 then. So going tight end again then. So I actually have this guy at 201 then. Luke Musgrave with the Packers then. So clear path to being the number 1 tight end on the Packers offense then. He is more of that wide receiving type tight end as opposed to blocking tight end. Very smooth. The one thing you worry about is, can he stay on the field then? We saw very limited film on him the past year because he got injured. And what we saw was decent then. Wasn't Dalton Kincaid greatness then, but I saw potential there. And like I said, the league the fantasy community is screaming for more tight end production. And I think the value here at 206 then for Luke Musgrave is very good. And hopefully he can click with Jordan Love fairly quickly then and make some good production in year 1 then. It's more going to be probably more that year 2, year 3 you see with these tight ends then. But I see a path there. And the draft capital was excellent then too. So he was pick 11 in the second round. So you got to love that as well. So I'm going tight end again.
I mean, I like what you're saying, but I have another tight end above him. So I don't think I got Musgrave up this high.
Well, you gotta pick a tight end, man, because I got 3 of them already on my team.
Yeah, well, I'm holding off on tight end for now. I don't think that's the best play on the board. I think this is tough. I think you took the wrong Packer. I'm taking Jaden Reed. I think he slots in as their number 2 receiver, and I know the ceiling is not super high. But I think he's a solid potential to be a wide receiver 2 in the league, and I think he's a very solid pick here. I mean, all these other receivers that are coming after him, I mean, there's a lot of questions about any role, especially early production, but even, future dynasty, production. So Jaden Reed, I think's a pretty solid pick here, and especially, I'm going to value that wide receiver over the tight end for sure. So I'm taking Jaden Reed.
Yeah, like I said, I put my money on the tight end then because I think he's going to have a path to sooner playing time. Because you have Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, both of them looked actually pretty good last season then. Christian Watson definitely hit the higher marks there towards the end of the season.
I definitely think Reed is a better receiver than Doubs.
Yeah, I don't know. It's to be determined then. He didn't look the greatest last year. I think he's still recovering from the injury at Michigan State then.
And questionable quarterback play.
Yeah, and questionable quarterback play. He did get very good draft capital. He was the 19th pick in the second round of this draft. And the Packers, they took three wide receivers and they took two tight ends. So the other wide receivers, so they took Grant DuBois in the seventh round. So that's probably not anything to necessarily worry about. And they took another wide receiver in the fifth round. They took Dontavian Wicks then too. So they're bringing in a lot of guys. So he's going to have to beat out a lot of guys. He's
Well,
going to
there's
definitely
no
have the first.
competition there.
Yeah, but
Those are roster fillers.
We're not too worried about those guys. But like I said,
Nope.
there is. We weren't necessarily thinking Romeo Doubs was going to be the guy early on, and Christian Watson was going to be the second fiddle of those draft class then too. And like I said, Jaden Reed has that injury history, but like I said he has the most talent by far then. And I think he could be that wide receiver two on that team. And I agree with you. But and it's not a bad pick here in the middle of the second round then. But I probably have him more at the end of the second round, early third then as well. But like I said, I agree with you. It's a good pick. I can't fault you for that. But like I said, there's competition, and I'm going with the more that tight end first, getting that production in this offense as opposed to the wide receiver here then. And and Musgrave was drafted 8 picks ahead, so they were valuing the tight end more just based on the team. Who knows going into the season, but that's how I saw it then. So Jaden Reed at 207. So 208 here. So next guy on my board is a Tennessee Titan then. So I am going with Tajay Spears then.
Yep.
So I actually have him at 204 on my board then. And I probably would have drafted him a little bit higher. But then you heard
The medical history, dude.
they talked about it right on the air too. So this is
Yeah.
a well-known thing. So I was surprised he even got drafted just based on this medical history. So he tore his ACL twice. Apparently doesn't have an ACL in one of his knees now, and he has no cartilage in that knee either, and it's just bone on bone right now, which is not good. So he's a one contract guy. So he's not going to be signing any sniffing extensions. It's going to be a year to year type thing then too, after his first contract, and he has a limited shelf life as a running back. As a running back, their shelf lives are not overly long to begin with, but it's going to be less so with him. And they were talking about like Jay Ajayi, who had a couple good years, but the knees caught up with him. Then Todd Gurley, knee caught up with him. But I love the talent. I really like Tajay Spears. He was in that third group of running backs, Bijan, and then Gibbs had his own tier, and then the other guys had their with Kendra Miller, Charbonnet, and Tajay Spears, and Bigsby as well then too. But I like the talent, and Derrick Henry is getting long in the tooth then. So he has a lot of miles on those tires, especially in the past couple of years then, or past 3 or 4 years then, where he's getting these enormous amount of carries. He's getting hurt most years now, missing some games then. So the opportunity could be sooner than not for Tajay Spears. But the one thing that hurts him is that, like I said, he's a one contract and done kind of guy. So if you get production out of him for a year or two, you definitely probably want to unload pretty quickly and then reinvest in the draft then. But Tajay Spears could see early production here and could be the guy in 2024 then too.
Yeah, Spears was one of the guys that I starred. He was my must-have running back. And that injury is super, super concerning. And like you just don't say those things on air unless it's very well known. Like you just don't say those things. So it's hard because right now he is going to be maybe the third down guy, the change of pace back. Haskins is going to get definitely, I think the bulk of the carries behind Henry. So you're not going to get the early production, and it's so worrisome. The talent is elite, and he's my next back on the board. Like, I'm not faulting you there, but it's just so risky. When we get to this point of the draft, that's when I start to try to be safe and to get as much value as I can. And when you're picking here at what, pick 2-9, this is the time when you need your backup quarterback. So I'm taking Bryce Young, pick 2-9. Safe value, safest quarterback in the class. And I think there's a great chance that he could get picked in the first round in a lot of drafts, especially the early second. You should not be picking quarterbacks that high because in these single QB leagues, it's just not, the value's not there. But when you get down to this point in this draft, I think this is when the QBs need to start to fall. So I'm taking Bryce Young.
Yeah, I actually have him here at 209 exactly. So I agree with the location here. I think you picked the wrong quarterback.
Of course you do.
Yeah. So I'm a CJ Stroud kind of guy. I think CJ Stroud, well, there's potential, top potential, sort of high ceiling is Anthony Richardson. The high floor is Bryce Young, and the middle ground is CJ Stroud then. So I'm a CJ Stroud guy. I have CJ Stroud put in at 207. He's going to be my pick here at 210. But like I said, I'm not going to fault you for Bryce Young. I think you're going to have a quarterback for the next 10 years. He's going to be a great backup on your team then. But is he ever going to be your starting quarterback or a guy you trust week in and week out on your fantasy team? Probably not. But as far as being safe, definitely the safest guy. He's has an elite mind then. He's excellent in the pocket and can sort of has those elusive moves then. Doesn't have the strongest arm. Definitely small. He's going to get injured more often than not more often than not, but he's going to get injured in his career. Then he's going to miss some games. But like I said, I think it's a good pick then. But CJ Stroud, like I said, I see him having elite accuracy. He has a perfect NFL size. Then I think he's going to run more in the NFL than he ran in college. That we saw the same thing with Justin Fields. Then I don't think he's going to be rushing for 1,000 yards like Justin Fields does, but I think he's probably going to be more of that, maybe that 400 to 500 type range then, maybe 300 to 500 range. Because he showed that during the Georgia game, he has some moves, he has some speed, and I think he's going to add that to his repertoire here going forward then. And I think he has the arm talent. He has better arm talent than Bryce Young. So I see him as a guy that you can actually start week in and week out down the road then. He's going to take a little more while to develop and translate to the NFL game, but that's why I have CJ Stroud ahead of him. But like I said, both are good picks here at this range then.
Yeah, I'm not a big Stroud fan. I don't think Houston is the best. I mean, he's going to get to play, but you just don't have a lot around you. I know they're trying for a regime change there and really trying to start over, but I don't think Stroud's the safest running back or the safest quarterback. I think Bryce Young is definitely the safest. Now, honestly, if I'm picking in this spot, if I already have a good QB2 on my team and I have maybe a young QB that I really like on my team, I'm going to take Richardson for the ceiling and just let him have a couple good games or let the hype build in the offseason and then trade him for more value. That's honestly probably what I'm going to do. And I'm probably feeling the same way in Superflex too, to be honest. There's going to be so many people that really value Richardson because of the elite rushing ability. But at pick 211, I'm not going back to the quarterback well. I'm going to take a guy that there's a good chance could be the lead back. And I didn't like this guy that much on film. I'm taking Chase Brown. The Bengals.
Ooh.
If Mixon is gone, who else is there? Chase Brown.
Yeah, I didn't. He's not my guy. He's not my guy.
I don't like him either.
He's on my board.
I don't like him either, but I'd
be happy probably him in the third round. Especially if I'm Mixon owner.
Dude, I've seen people taking him a lot higher than what I just took him.
I agree with all the news with Mixon.
Yep.
He is definitely higher. He's going to be higher on boards then. He has very good speed then. He offers a pass catching role then too. But he doesn't have much power. He's not a sort of a move the chains kind of guy then. And I think
this is a dynamic offense. He's going to have more chances at touchdowns.
Yeah, but I don't see him being the guy. But like I said, if you're a Mixon owner, it may be a good guy to get then, just in case then. I'd probably rather just pick up what is it, Travion Williams.
No, man. Chase Brown he's their
No, I'm saying I'd rather
RB2.
pick up Travion Williams off the waiver wire on and just have that as my backup, not as my insurance policy for Mixon, as opposed to Chase Brown and spending a second round pick on Chase Brown. That's what I'm saying.
I don't understand. Chase Brown literally is pretty talented. I mean, he's not top tier, but he's a very solid running back, and we graded him out pretty high. And
Yeah. But he's a fifth round pick. It's not like he's guaranteed if Mixon goes, he's going to be the guy.
You look at the rest of these
Did they
options
cut
and ask
Mixon
if you were
and
the
trade for
Bengals,
Cook?
if you would have paid up for those guys. So,
What's that? Sorry.
I mean, you look at the rest of this board and where they went in the draft. Would you, if you were the Bengals, would you have picked them that high? You wouldn't have spent the capital on where some of these other guys went. So, I think they got their guy, Chase Brown. Now, I do think, on the flip side of this, his value could absolutely be crushed if they go out and get a back like Dalvin Cook. They bring in Zeke Elliott or Fournette or someone else. That's going to really change everything. But you're picking at the end of the second round and you're getting a running back that could be a league winner. Could be a solid run. Could be the guy who gets the carries. That's a steal. So
yeah, I would snag up Anthony Richardson way before that. So I have Anthony Richardson at 210 there. So
who you taking at 212?
So it would be Tank Bigsby or Anthony Richardson.
Well, pick one.
Well, I'd probably take Tank Bigsby because I see Tank Bigsby and ETN as being a timeshare type deal then. I think ETN's that more dynamic, almost Kamara type role then, but I don't think he's as good a pass catcher as Kamara. And I think Bigsby's going to be the in between the tackles kind of guy then, and more that goal line back then. And they've been looking for that. They even got what was the guy they were using? JaMychal Hasty. Yeah, they were using JaMychal Hasty at times in the Jaguars offense then. So I think they were looking for a guy, and they spent decent capital on Tank Bigsby then too. So he was picked in the 25th pick in the third round, as opposed to your Chase Brown was picked in the fifth round at the 28th pick then. So I'm more in on Tank Bigsby, and I like Tank Bigsby a lot better as far as his film score and the overall talent than Chase Brown. I thought he was more complete back then. So I'm easily taking Tank Bigsby there in that regard. And like I said, I would take Anthony Richardson ahead of him. We already spoke about his ceiling then. I would take two other tight ends then too. I would take Sam Laporta. He was drafted in the early second round. Luke Schoonemaker is another guy you can consider then too with the Cowboys. He was drafted in the second round as well at tight end also here. So those are the guys that I would probably think about even before Chase Brown. I even have a few more running backs than two.
I don't get it. I just told you that this guy at worst is the second running back on the team. There's no depth. Mixon is obviously already in legal issues with what's going on. He's very likely getting cut. Why in the world do you not want Chase Brown? Like I like Bigsby.
Better guys.
I like Bigsby on the eye test way better, but you just can't. You can't pass up on that. You just can't.
You can have him. I'll pass.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't love the player, but I love the opportunity.
So, but yeah, it's gonna be soup du jour. Your favorite Baskin Robbins flavor in these later rounds, and it's a lot of subjectiveness. And like I said, I'm trying to combine the film score. I'm trying to combine that draft capital. I'm trying to combine that landing spot opportunity, and that's the way I see it. But each person's going to see things differently, and that's what makes this game fun. That's what makes it exciting then.
Yep. Honestly, like you said, after you get past pick 5, all of these are throw them in a hat, pull one out, and be happy about it. Honestly, I can't fault any of these picks that you made, and I feel like I have pretty good arguments for why I picked the guys I did. I mean, you mentioned some of the guys that's left on your board. I'm probably done at quarterback. I think Levis and Hooker both are probably third and fourth round picks, respectively. Maybe Hooker at the end of the third. The only tight end that I have that I'm still going to draft up that even consider at the end of the second, but almost assuredly third-round pick is Sam Laporta. And at wide receiver, you're almost tapped out. I mean, I liked Tyler Scott a lot pre-draft, so I'm going to take Tyler Scott. I think there's a role for him in that Chicago offense. And, I mean, other than that, you've got maybe Eric Gray with the Giants. That's especially if Barkley, and I expect that to get handled, but he is the best option that they've had in a while to spell Barkley carries. So I like Eric Gray too.
You can consider Roshan Johnson then. We don't necessarily like the talent.
Now, why are you going to take Roshan Johnson?
I see Foreman as the better guy, like a better player.
I see Miller as a better guy too.
Yeah.
But, so he's a third down, touchdown dependent goal line back.
Yeah, another guy I had McBride with the Vikings. He got drafted a lot later than we thought he would then. But we like the talent, and there's some questions as far as Dalvin Cook then. And then at wide receiver, I also like things to consider, like the Texans. Like they had Tank Dell, and they also had Hutchinson. Both the guys I like. Tank Dell got this, I believe, early third round draft capital, but Hutchinson was more of a fifth, sixth round guy. But I like Hutchinson better as far as being more of a number one. But Tank Dell's gonna be that dynamic slot guy. So those are two other guys to keep an eye on then that you could consider in that third, fourth round then. But
yep, there's a lot of good darts for the third round.
Yeah,
that's the saving grace of this.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Good third round darts.
You trade up to get those top talent, those top four guys. Then you trade out, get some veteran players, and stock up on picks in later years. Then, or you almost try to take one of those mid first round picks and then just get a bunch of late first, early second picks then, and do like a shotgun approach then, and just try to, because a lot of these guys are going to miss then, but there is going to be guys that hit, and you may want to just diversify your portfolio and get a bunch of these guys and then hope for the best.
Yep, I mean, like pick 6, 7, 8, I'm probably interested in trading that, and if I can get a early second, maybe a later second with it, and a third. I mean, and that should be easily to get that done. That shouldn't be hard. You should be able to get 2 seconds in a third and take.
2 seconds in a third.
Yeah,
okay.
2 seconds in a third. You probably get more.
Third, you're getting killed on that.
Yeah, you probably
even
can
2
get
seconds
more.
in a third.
But if you look at the draft board, you can get a pretty solid tight end. You can get a pretty decent wide receiver, and you can take a decent running back. So you increase your odds of hitting, just based on where this tier is. Because the tier is literally like from pick 6 to mid of the second, which is never had. I can't remember a time when it was like this.
Yeah. Well, I think this show is long enough then, but
yep.
It's always fun to do the mock drafts then, and definitely a lot of personal opinion, and it's not going to be our first 5 picks were on the dot with each other then, but then we definitely differed pretty heavily then from then on.
Yep.
But yeah, so I always enjoy draft season. It's always a lot of fun then. I can't wait to do my drafts. I always like balancing draft picks and veterans then. So we'll have to see how this all plays out then. But yeah, should be fun. So so check out the YouTube channel. We have a film up on all the prospects we talked about now. Should be up here very shortly. The wide receivers are the last ones that we're getting up then. You can check out all our pre-draft film scores and also our videos then of videos and podcasts then. Talk about these players just pre-draft and what we thought of them too, see what their strengths and weaknesses are. And then hit us up on Twitter at the DYN interview then. And like I said, enjoy your drafts. It's been a lot of fun.
Yep.
And we are looking forward to ours. I can tell you that for sure then.
Yep.
So that's all I got then. Anything else, Scotty?
Nope.
Okay, so this is Joseph Adrian signing off.
And this is Scott Martin, and you just listened to the Dynasty Interview Fantasy Football Podcast.